Suicide is a difficult issue for many to talk about, but for parents who are survivors of suicide loss, there is no more important discussion.
They want people to know about the children they've lost and that mental health is as important as physical health. The parents of Alec, Matt, and Zach share their stories with WMUR's Jennifer Crumpton.
Alec was a ball of energy, didn't stop moving, 150 miles an hour.
He was amazing. He's into parkour. He was great at doing flips, and he was just a natural, and he used to wow people all the time.
I get so excited when I talk about Matt. He had such a charismatic way about him that when he walked into the room, his smile just lit up life. It was like, oh, Matt's here, let's go,
Zach was a fantastic boy, young man. If I called him a boy, he'd probably be insulted because he was about over 6 feet and a very large boy, man. And if there's one thing that everybody needs to know is we love to talk about our sons.
As survivors of suicide loss, these parents are now bonded.
Going to my first support group, I started to recognize an awful lot, and I realized that this was a passion that I needed to share his voice by simply helping others to talk about this, to recognize warning signs.
I too missed a lot of warning signs, but I didn't know those warning signs at that time.
Passionate about mental health and suicide awareness.
People say they're fine all the time, but we don't really know, the shoes they're walking in. That's exactly what happened with Matt. He was so private and so, controlled about what his feelings were that he was there for everybody else but himself.
I think a lot of parents don't approach the children with the question because they don't want to hear the answer. And if they get the answer, how are they supposed to deal with it?
If you could find ways to ask open-ended questions to, start conversations in different ways, or say one thing, the same thing in different ways, you never know how you're going to hit that person and the way they can answer you. And picking up on clues of what they're saying and watching behaviors that are not typical of that person are so important.
Alec's parents describe a mental health system that needs help and time and patience to navigate.
We lost our son, Alec, at the age of 16 in November of 2017. And he, just like the others, he was also private. But the different thing here was we knew, at least in the last year or so, that there was something wrong.
We did everything we thought was right, as far as medical care, hospitalizations, and psychiatrists, medicine, you name it.
They are concerned that the pandemic might be exacerbating mental health issues some young people were already dealing with, stressing mental health is just as important as physical health.
We need to teach them to say, it's okay, and say, hey, I'm anxious or I'm not feeling right today.
Raising awareness and reducing stigma.
And the more we start talking about it, the more we can help prevent suicide and save lives.
Helping people know what to watch for and how to connect someone with help is an ongoing effort here in New Hampshire. It has included mental health training for first responders and for school staff, but many Granite State students are also actively involved in suicide prevention.
Across the state, in high schools like those in Goffstown and Bedford, young people are using their suicide prevention training, peer-to-peer programs that help them help themselves and others.
We're looking for the small clues that may be adding up to something bigger that we may not know. And it also means that our training allows us to know our options, know our resources, where to get the help.
That's one of the main things we try to get across in that peer-to-peer suicide prevention teaching, is that we stress so much that I think our generation is doing a great job of destigmatizing many, many things. And just talking about mental illness in a productive way can help destigmatize that.
And they're willing to take action.
I think that it's really important just to check on the little ones, because I think obviously they're going through it with us, and I think that it's important just to validate their emotions and just know that they might not be going through the same things, but it's definitely a tough time for all of us.
So many people who aren't really repressing their feelings anymore. They're talking to people. A lot more people are open to going out and getting help. But at the same time, I don't think it's the majority yet. But I do see progress.
We are starting to talk about emotions a lot more openly. And, years ago, talking about a therapist, I was like, but now it's like, oh, good for you.
Opening up about how the pandemic has changed them and their world in ways that reflect hope and resilience.
And I think it's almost created this academic society that has placed the importance where it needs to be rather than getting that 4.0 or above, which seems unachievable, and kind of increasing anxiety when not necessary.
There's no benefit to looking back and being like, oh my God, I wish I had junior prom. Like, yeah, it sucks. It really does. And there's no denying that that was an awful situation, but we're out of the frying pan and into the fire. So, and there really is no looking back. Like, you can never gain time back that you lost. And while, yes, that's sad, it's also led us to become more futuristic people.
I really learned to be grateful for the small things, like the things that we used to just expect. I'm super grateful for now, like family gatherings and birthday parties.
With all that extra free time, I was really able to explore like the outdoors. And like, I love hiking and backpacking, and I was able to explore those facets, which I probably wouldn't have been able to. And now I'm majoring in environmental science and agriculture. So
I feel more adult-like. That's my idea. I know who my core group of friends are. I know what I want and what I expect out of people. And I've also got to use more technology.
With vaccines out and things opening up, excitement for what lies ahead.
And I definitely, what I feel is this new hopefulness for the future, kind of seeing that resilience in our generation and the generations above us.
I'm really excited to see what we as a generation are going to do after having gone through a global pandemic. What was the last one? Like the Spanish flu in the 1900s? Like, we got this, I'm excited to see what we're going to do.
Jennifer Crompton, WMUR News 9.
Sharing that message of hope and prevention is also important to these best friends, preparing a cross-country project to spread awareness.
Up next, their personal connection to the issue.
I can't speak for other people, but I believe that it allowed me to kind of see the light